Hey guys, what's up? Just a quick Unity drop here, talking about the Animator and some of its quirky things. Well, one of the Unity blogs tells us to use idle random, a bit like this, where you have multiple idle animations, and then you have selectors, where depending on a integer parameter, if it's equal to goes to idle 2, equals 1 goes to idle 1, etc. Which kind of like what I did here, but the thing is, when it's within substate machine like this, and I disable auto live link so you guys can follow it from the higher level, you have some problems. First, if you define the default as the idle random, well, you can't. You literally have to set up as one of its internal clips or states. So if I set this one as the layer's default state, well, it's not for the internal substate machine, it's for the entire state machine, and then the conditions don't work. Because, well, there's no way to define a condition here. And if you go up to the base layer, well, good luck with that as well. You can't define the condition. So basically, it doesn't matter if you're selecting the random idle, as I did here with the state machine behavior, which is super simple. Just select random idle, state machine behavior, and define a clip count. So it goes from 0 to 3 because the second number in a random dot range is exclusive, so it's 0 to clip count -1 in practice, but don't do this here because that's the definition for the random dot range method. Okay, so it's pretty simple. You get the hook to the animator, then you set integer, and this is the animator. So in practice, you're setting a different idle random, but that doesn't really matter. Okay, because when you go within here, the default transition is set here. So an option you have, like what I did previously, was to just take something like the move blend tree and set as layer default state. But that gives some glitches in the animation, because no matter how fast you make this, well, you can't make it instantaneous because you can't define transition settings. Again, it's just the default transition, so good luck with that. You can't do it. What can you do? You can't do much here in the move blend tree. It's just regular speed, so no transition setting. If you go here, well, again, you can set a condition, but you cannot set the transition duration. So yeah, meh. Pretty bad, huh? Okay, so how can you work this out? There are many ways to do it. So I'll show what I did and which works pretty well, and then I'll explain it to you. So I'll pause this real quick and revert to the previous state so we don't waste any time in the video. Okay, so here's the trick. What I did was I restored to my previous state, and the thing is, you put in one of the idles. In this case, I choose idle 0 as my standard idle. You just add the behavior here instead. Okay, so what this is going to do is you're going to have a default transition from everywhere else, but from there on you can choose, if you want to go to idle 2, this is equals 2, to idle 3, or to idle 1. So each of those states have a return condition, which basically has exit time. Of course, this means you have control about the transition duration, but that also means those transitions cannot be interrupted. If 250 milliseconds is no big deal for your transitions, great. If not, just disable as exit time, and then you're able to interrupt it from elsewhere. You can also use interruption source to define if you want the some of the next states after this state to be able to interrupt this transition, after the next one has been transitioned to. So that's up to you. Usually if I want it to be super flexible, I just set next state, then current state, and disable has active time. Okay, so one last thing. Well, obviously we need to add the state machine behavior here. It's added, and one last thing is we need this small minor arrow thing here. It means it's a recurring transition. So this is where you set the condition where idle random is equals to 0, so it goes back to idle 0. You might not have it. That's fine. This is just adding more weight to this idle. So to do it, just click on make transition, just click back on the same state. I can't do it more than once, so that's all you got. Okay, and that's it. With that done, what's going to happen is whenever you have the condition from attack to idle, like is attack equal false or speed less than a minimum value that I set here, you go to idle, and as soon as it enters here, it selects a number, an integer, which is fed into idle random, and this one will always be played once. And after this is selected, that's when once it's finished is when the transitions are defined here, and then you go to one of those guys and then go back to one. This means that idle 0 is repeated many times. Okay, of course, because if it goes to idle 2, goes back to idle 0, goes to idle 3, goes back to idle 0, and so on and so forth. But since usually you want to add more weights to one state, this is almost like weight 3 for this guy and weight 1 for those guys, because you have this one played at least once when it's started, and after that it goes back, and it also can, due to this little arrow here, it can go back to itself. Okay, so that's all there is to it, really. If I hit play here, you can go check the animator, and you see how it doesn't pop as using the other transition that you saw. So it will no longer pop, and it's gonna transition, as you can see here. By the way, if you don't see the bars, the progress bars, make sure to select a game object where the animator is being housed. Okay, and then it's gonna update properly, and you see that it's gonna work for the most part. There are always going to be some exception situations that are going to need to deal one by one. Like for instance, if I'm attacking here, what I'm doing is this blend from any state, and you see that I like to use any state transitions to make sure that I can blend to very important states. Okay, so death is not the case. Usually you want to select specific transitions from each one. Exception is probably going back from idle to death, because then it's basically a cut. And notice that that's when any state transitions work pretty well. You know, I have two transitions here, one with front blow and one with front blow equal false. So when it's hit from the front region or from the back region. So I can show you guys here real quick. Is that? And if I disable it, there's some, blending, which is probably not what you want in this specific case. So the right thing to do would be, as soon as you enter, you can do this here actually. You can just add a state machine behavior where you set attack to false, so you don't have to do it in your code. Okay, that's the best way to deal with that. But yeah, if you're not attacking and you're dead and you disable is dead, you see it's taking some time, which is not ideal, of course, and you can't deal with this thing because it's transitioning from one blend tree, from one substate machine to another substate machine. This is the kind of thing that ruins your life. So in this case, the trick to fix it is within the actual substate machine behavior, the exit settings, instead of the trying to fix it here, because that won't work. So you want to make sure that whenever it exits each of those states, has exit time equal false, so it can be immediately interrupted. So I just disable for those two guys, and let's try it again. So it's that. I'm going to click 1, 2, 3 and popped back instantly. Okay, so bear in mind those tricks, just just to show. I know this is very basic, just to show it here. You can just add some speed. It starts moving. You can double click on the move blend tree and play with the speed setting. And the way I've set this up was to just have like this. So initially I have idle 1, which is the standard idle, just to make sure I have I don't pop instantly into some walk, just make things slightly smoother. And then I go to walk after 0.2. For that, you have to disable automate thresholds to be able to set those numbers. Make sure to not play with those. This is just the speed at which each animation is going to be played, unless you really want to speed up the run animation. Usually it's the run that you want to speed up if the character has to move faster for gameplay purposes. That's what you do. Okay, and then you disable this, set those numbers, add just drag those guys in here, and make sure blend type's 1D, and then it works fine. And then when I go back to 0, or really a really small factor, it doesn't immediately go to the idle substate machine. Okay, and that's what I wanted. So now it's on the idle machine, and it's working flawlessly. Okay, so that's Unity drops for today. Hope it's been useful. See you guys next. Bye bye.